Determining if you should build your own website or hire somebody to do it can be very overwhelming. We hear stories all the time of people getting taken advantage of by developers or not understanding what questions to ask and really getting overwhelmed by all of the information. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what to consider before hiring a developer or choosing to do it yourself. We're going to weigh some pros and cons for both sides so that you can make an informed decision based off your budget, your time, your staff, as to what makes the most sense for you when developing a website. Because remember that your website should be your 24/7, 365 salesperson. And if you're not communicating correctly or understanding what you need out of your website, then you won't be able to build it effectively, or you won't be able to hire a developer to do it to get you the results that you need. So I hope you'll join us in listening to this episode. It's going to be a good one. But before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by our 30-day website roadmap. This roadmap walks you through all of the steps that you need to consider before developing your website so that you have all of the elements in place, from ideal customers to branding to language, before you start the build process. You can download this for free at thefirstclick.net/30 days and start to work through it and see what you learn. Let's get into it. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Vidal-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Choosing to build your own website or hire a developer is definitely a tricky thing. And we hear stories all the time of people getting into relationships with developers, feeling like they got taken advantage of or didn't get the end result that they wanted, and that they should have just built it themselves. So before you really think about if you want to build it yourself or hire it out, here are the 6 things that we think you should consider. And there's more than this for sure, but this will get you started so that you can have conversation. And by all means, we recommend you interview at least 3 developers or designers before you make a decision and move forward. You'll learn a lot from each of these conversations, but if you can come armed with the answers to these kind of 6 situations, then I think you'll feel much more ready to have that conversation, to enter into a relationship, or to just say, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to take it on and do it myself. So let's get to it. Number 1, cost in your budget. And this might seem like a super easy thing, but definitely something you want to consider. You could go with a lower cost developer, maybe get a website built for you for around $1,500, but it might not be what you want it to be. You might not get all of the things that you need, and their experience level might be lower, and they might not understand all the questions that you need to know in order to get the result that you want. On the other side, having it done for $7,000 to $10,000 or even more could be completely out of your budget. So you really need to think about what you have to spend on developing a website and make sure it's in line with everything that you have going on in your business. So doing it on your own is, a more cost-effective option for sure. It's just going to take more of your time. So on a cost perspective with this situation, you want to make sure that the time you're spending on building a website doesn't take away from the time that you could be spending on other revenue generating elements of growing your business. Number 2 is really keeping in mind what information needs to be on your website. What are your business goals and how can you put those on your website in a meaningful way in order to create sales? It's important that you know this information moving forward because it really helps to determine the features and the elements that are crucial to be on your website. This isn't a situation where you need to go crazy and decide you have to have everything all up front. You don't have to have all the forms and all of the e-commerce and all of that. It does not need to be there at the beginning. But really understanding what does and what is the minimum amount of things that you need to have for your website to be successful is really important. And this can also help determine for you then if you feel like you can be comfortable creating that website or if you're going to need more help. If you're doing e-commerce, if you're really having a ton of pages, if you're transferring a large website over to a new platform, there's lots of things that might require you to bring somebody else in because it might be a little bit more complicated than what you feel comfortable doing. So really writing down what your business goals are and how they can be shown on your website will be an important part of the conversation for you and your team internally, as well as when you chat with a potential developer. The number 3 thing I want you to think about is timing. Sometimes the timing of your website doesn't really matter. You're not in a big rush. You're kind of just working through things. You're just getting started, whatever. Sometimes you have a really strict deadline and you need it up in a certain amount of time. So going back to budget, it's still going to be a cost situation, but understanding your capacity to get the work done and build out your website is crucial so that you can meet the deadlines you need in order to move your business forward. So when you're hiring or interviewing developers, being able to be clear about we need to have the website done by this date, or if you're doing it internally or with your team, blocking off the time that you need to get this done is going to be crucial. And understanding that even if you hire somebody to build a website for you, it's still a partnership and you'll still need to block off time in order to get them the elements that they need to execute on the goals that you have. So it's always going to be a very active process for you, but definitely less time on your side if you hire it out, more time on your side if you do it in-house, and really understanding how much time you have to give to the project versus the deadline is going to be crucial so that everybody gets what they need and you're not so frustrated. So this also goes into number 4, which is staffing. And staffing doesn't necessarily have to be your internal staff. It might be you're not hiring a website developer to do the whole project, but maybe instead you're hiring a copywriter to help you with the language, or you need to hire a photographer in order to get the brand shots that you need. Or maybe you're just hiring somebody to do a little bit of the tech work and then you're going to do the bulk of it. So again, kind of going back to budget, which a lot of this does. Who are you going to use to help with the build? What roles are they going to play? And understanding the communication style, where you're going to have everything pulled together. Are you going to use a Google Drive to manage all of the back and forth? Are you going to use a different tool? Whatever it is, who are the people that are key to the project? Who are the decision makers? And having that all lined out at the beginning will be key to keeping things moving in a forward momentum and not slowing down. I've seen so many website projects just get hung up on one little decision here, 2 little decisions there, and people just don't move past them, and then the project stalls. We've had projects stall for months sometimes, and it's really frustrating. So remembering that whoever is making the decisions and whoever is helping out with the project needs to be on board with the ultimate end goal, knowing that the project isn't going to be done. When your website is done, it will still continue to evolve as you move and as your business grows. So we're not looking for perfection here, folks. We're looking for something that is a great representation of who you are now and what you're trying to accomplish, and helping to get your potential customers and current customers to understand what you're about and continue coming back for more. So kind of going in line with that, as you decide how you want to move forward, number 5 is all about who is going to maintain the website moving forward. Are you planning on maintaining it yourself? And by maintenance, I mean things like security backups, making sure your plugins are updated and that the core software that you're using is updated as well. Monitoring it for security, downtime, uptime, all of that stuff. Maintenance, ongoing, is crucial for the health of your website. So is that something you're going to want to outsource to somebody in the future, or are you guys going to maintain that in-house? And maintenance, having somebody do it on the outside can look like a lot of different things. At the first click, we charge somewhere between $49 and I believe $249 to have us maintain your website for you. And it all comes with a bunch of different features. But if your website isn't up and functioning, then it's not doing the work it needs to do for you. People can't buy from you or inquire about your products and services if your website isn't up. So thinking about that is really key. And some people won't manage or maintain a website for you if they didn't build it. So if that's a big piece of the puzzle for you, if you don't want to do the ongoing maintenance and you don't want to do the ongoing edits and updates, then you should probably look at having somebody build out your website for you. There's tons of free resources, and we have our monthly checklist that you can check out if you want to maintain it yourself. It's not that it's difficult, it's just another thing that's on your to-do list. And so really thinking about who you have on your team. Is there a VA you can hire to outsource it to that's going to be less expensive? Whatever it might be. Maintenance is something you want to think about in the development process because it's very important to the long-term health and wellness of your website. You're not going to drive a car forever and never take it in for a checkup. And that's what monthly maintenance does, is it makes sure that your website is optimized and working clean and efficient so that people can get the information when they need it, how they need it, without disruption. So the last step that I want you to consider before hiring a developer or choosing to do it yourself is the platform that you want to build with. This is crucial. If you are somebody who hates WordPress, you don't want to hire a developer that only builds in WordPress. We, for example, only use Divi by Elegant Themes in every client site we build. Our course is all about teaching people how to use the Divi theme. If you don't like Divi, then we're not your person. So those kinds of questions are good to clarify up front. What do you feel most comfortable with? What theme or software do you want to use? And making sure that you're getting the training appropriate for that platform and not going into a conversation with a developer, not understanding what platform they build in. Platforms vary, themes vary. There's so many options out there. So finding somebody you trust that can give you the right advice is going to be key here as well. So really, to kind of sum it up, it's really important that you have a developer that you trust, that you can have good, clear communication with, that you know is on the up and up, that's going to provide training for you so that you can take over your website, that's going to provide maintenance to keep your website clean, secure, and up. And that is going to be able to deliver on the timeline that you need. If you want to do it yourself, all of those same things are true. Making sure you have the right support staff to help keep the website up and running, making sure you have the right training to be able to make edits and updates yourself, and finding somebody who can kind of support you along in that journey. Whether it be a coworker, a friend of yours who's built a website before, a really great YouTube channel, or an online course like your starter site that we have, getting that support so you don't get frustrated is going to be key. Because look, if you want to build it yourself, you can. There's so many resources out there to help you. I have all the faith in the world that you can build a website on your own. But make sure you have the tools at your disposal before you get started so you don't get frustrated, have a 2-page website, give up because it didn't do what you wanted to do, and then still feel like you need to go hire somebody. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of these 6 tips that I brought up. And I'd love to hear if you're a DIYer or if you think you're just going to hire somebody else to do it. You can leave those comments for me at thefirstclick.net/15. That's where the show notes for this episode are. And I look forward to hearing from you on what you decide and what platform you decide to build your website on. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss out on our weekly episodes. And join us in the First Click community group on Facebook for more conversations about all the topics that we talk about here. I hope you have a great week. Thanks for tuning in.